Welcome to Casual Watch Talk, the podcast from the Casual Watch Reviewer YouTube channel. Join us as we talk everything watches, from watch collecting, the latest horology news and interviews. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe on your favourite podcast app. Let's dive into the show. Hi everyone, welcome back to episode 24 of Casual Watch Talk. We're nearly at the 25 episode mark. How have you been this week, Chris?
All right. Celebrating. Pretty good. Pretty good,
it's been a weird old week. I think I've really been obsessed with a lot of watches at the moment, especially this week. But I think we'll start off with what's been your watch obsession this week. As we always like to start these shows with watch obsessions. I should have prefaced that by saying.
Watch obsession this week. Mentioned it in the Facebook group. You had mentioned last week, or maybe the week before, we were talking about Oleg and Weiss, O&W. And I was on eBay, of course, and I was taking a look, and I was, it's more obscure brand. And I found this company selling this Wilson Watchworks that was selling this 90s refurbished Oleg and Weiss, this MP Army watch. Just fantastic. I mean, like, what was it, $500? I think they wanted. It was super affordable, mechanical. It had heritage. It's vintage, tritium, T-Swiss, T-dial. It's got the military red on it. Man, that went in the cart for sure, and I was close.
Yeah, I couldn't work when you sent me that site. It was super interesting. Do they fix these watches up? I think I noticed they bead blasted some marathon cases and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like, so I looked at a couple of the other ones. There's definitely one that they listed as new old stock. So I think in that case they had got a hold of a dial. Okay, so let me also say, Steven over in our Casual Watch Talk group on Facebook, head over there if you're not joined already. He mentioned that he knew about Wilson Watchworks and had purchased something from them, and said that they were nice, reputable company. I did some more digging. It looks like they in fact used to be the distributor for O&W, and so I think that's how they had some of the equipment or some of the parts and pieces. And so I think that's what they're doing is like a new old stock, or they're refurbishing, or they'll replace dial and hands, etc. And they seem to be pretty transparent about it in their descriptions.
Yeah, that's something that you don't, or I've certainly never seen with watches before, but it's something you see all the time with cars, isn't it? Where they build old cars out of old stock parts.
Yeah. Where they're,
I know they certainly do that with the original Minis.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll see it with the Omega when I was fixated on the 300s. They've got a bunch of new old stock stuff floating around for those. But yeah, speaking of cars, like, I mean, some of that's, some of those, some of the folks that do restorations, I mean, they'll find, they'll pull a Porsche 356 out of the North Sea, figure out what the serial number was, and and sort of just rebuild everything from the Bilstein struts on. So it's interesting. You definitely see that more than in cars than watches. But
so shall I go with mine now? And this might be a bit of a journey for you, because I've had a week with watches, put it that way. So first off, honestly, it's been probably the most dramatic week in my watch collecting career going. So first off, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about, do you remember I mentioned that Yema that I ordered, the Quartz Superman version?
Right. Okay.
So it didn't ship. I posted on Facebook. It didn't ship for ages. It said 5-day shipping. So I was thinking, oh, that's great. It's going to come in 5 days. And then 5 days went, and I emailed them and said, hey, just checking. I didn't get a send receipt or whatever, that it was on its way. I didn't get a tracking number. And they said, oh, well, it's 5 days when we ship it. I think I talked about this on one of the past podcasts where I was like, oh, it says 5 days shipping. But anyway, I was like, cool. It's like, we build the watches. So then, like, another couple of days went past, and emailed again saying, hey, just wondering, like, where that watch is up to. Because now it had been over 2 weeks. Oh, hey, yeah, just let me get back to you. And then And then I emailed them again, say, look, can I just cancel this? Because obviously there's something going on. And I kind of lost confidence a little bit.
Yep.
And then they were like, no, you can't cancel it. I was like, okay. So I waited a couple of days, and then I emailed them again last week.
Wait, I'm sorry. They just said no. We'll pass on your canceling.
Well, this was only halfway through the saga. Then
okay,
yeah, I know.
I'm already all right. Continue.
So then I emailed them again. Said, hey, just checking up. This was probably 2.5 weeks gone now. Where's the watch? And said, oh, it'll be out on Monday. So that would have been. I ordered it on a Monday, and that would have been 3 weeks had passed by then.
A solid 3 weeks. Yeah.
Can you just please give me a refund? Because I worked out that I hadn't ordered it on the pre-order. I think they won't cancel a pre-order, but I'd worked out and I said, hey. So anyway, so it ended up being a bit of a saga. They agreed to it, and then their head of media relations reached out to me because they must have seen the email address or whatever. And also in the past, I'd offered to She's like, hey, why don't we send you some watches to review? And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but I still want the refund.
Okay.
And then she emailed me back, and the lady emailed me back, and she was like, oh, yeah, well, why don't we send you some watches for review, and then we'll refund you 15% of the watch purchase? And I was like, no. Like, you refund me I don't want the watch anymore.
Right.
I'm like, I'll still review the ones you want to send me. Oof. They were just press ones. Right. So but it left a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. I've still not received the refund, even though they have agreed now on email and.
Yeah, the weird backpedal and also people think that Sam, someday I want to become a YouTube watch reviewer. So let me tell you how this is sort of a great backstory of like, that's complicating this, right? Because now you've got this media person who's backpedaling it. And then, obviously she probably realizes that you're having a bad time of it. And then, but it's like, this is not your fault. This is the company's, like, it frustrates me sometimes when the company has a mode of operation and the warehouse isn't told about it and the marketing team isn't told about it. And then, you get there to pick something up and they're like, oh no, we're not doing that. And you're like, okay, but if you go on your website, it's like free returns, everything's fine. Like we're here to help you, frictionless payment.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's almost the logistics issues that they're having. If you look on Reddit, it's almost definitely to do with, it's to do with COVID-19, no problem. And honestly, I totally sympathize with them.
Yeah.
What I can't abide by is that they didn't keep me informed. I was constantly chasing it. It wasn't like they sent an email saying, hi everyone, just to let you know, we're struggling a little bit with our logistics and so on. Totally get it.
Right.
But
just let us know. Just keep us informed. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And do you think you'll get your full, will you get your full refund back? Now, are they saying like you're going to have a restocking fee or something?
No, apparently I'm getting the full refund backs, but I'll keep you posted on here.
Okay.
So that was like the start of this week was the refund. And then in other news, which I'm sure we can talk about how I did this on another part of the channel, but I ended up selling my Tudor BB58.
Oh no! I had a feeling. It's like week 3 that you were talking about us. Sam, you secretly listed it and didn't tell me. I'm hurt now. I'm hurt.
I did. I'm sorry, but I did. This.
Oh man.
I realized that I am a weird watch collector. I gave my reasons for selling my Omega, and people are like, yeah, that's weird. But I can only be true to myself.
That's true.
It's a great watch. This is not besmirching Tudor's good name. Mm-hmm. It was a great watch. Right. But like I said to you, jokingly, I think it might have been when we were just not on the podcast, but where I was like, I like this. I don't know whether I like this because it says more about what a sophisticated watch collector I am instead of do I actually like it.
Right. Yeah, you had mentioned that. Yeah.
I'm like, Tudor, obviously. Tudor is the best bang for buck in the luxury watch game, I think.
Yeah.
But I was, again, afraid of scratching it like I was with a flipping Omega.
No. Yeah. I see your point. Like, there are definitely watches in my collection that are there and will stay there because no one knows. Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, you get that one. I'll make an example that isn't in my watch collection, but like, if you're walking around with a bronze Oris, if you're walking around with one of those, that's like a signal. That's a signal to your flock that, like, yeah, I'm a watch guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't see in a regular setting where you would just run into one of those. And same thing with the, probably more so with the Tudor. It's kind of like Rolex in the way that there's so many sold that people buy them and they're like, it's my watch. And you know, and you see someone on the subway or the mass transit and you're like, oh, you've got the Tudor 58. It's amazing. And it's like, yeah, I got it for graduation, whatever. I don't, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? It's like you expect to be asked about your watches, and obviously we do when we go to a watch event. But if you think about, certainly in my life, the only time I get into watch conversations is probably where I've instigated them.
Yeah, or like I will wear stuff in the summertime on crazy orange straps just to be like, you know, and that's like I wore my Seiko mod on an orange strap to Disneyland, and that was like the only time where someone was like, "Hey, cool watch," you know. I was like, "Yay!" But yeah, it's like a signal, you know. This we're kind of holding on to, like, oh, I'm a sophisticated watch collector, you know. So
I'm up and down on the scale of watch collecting, but I really do think that the sub $1,000 mark is a really good price range for a three-hander watch, a mechanical. What more are you getting for, you know, from $1,000 watch to a $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 watch? You're not getting any. You're getting improvement in materials, but there's no like technical improvement really. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but
no,
it's negligible. Obviously, those tiny differences amount to a lot. Gold hands and the polished indices when you put them all together, but yeah, I don't really. I just think that $1,000, sub $1,000-ish mark for a three-hander is like my sweet spot. It doesn't have to be anybody else's.
Right.
I mean, I know you've got some really nice chronographs and stuff like that, which you would expect to pay more for.
Yeah, but I also certainly. I think it comes down to, and we've talked about this before, where, you know, I think both of us tend to be a value watch buyer, and that I think keeps us grounded in that like $1,000, you know, range. Because you're right, like once you get up into 5, 3, 5, 7, like once you're in this, I was looking at the prices of IWC, and like an IWC three-hander, I mean, it's you know, the dial's great, it's gorgeous, it's well made, it's great, but like that's really hard to justify an extra $3,000. We've talked about this, about, you know, the marketing, where it's like there's only so much they can do, where they're saying, oh well, it's in-house movement, and you're like, yeah, but it's all, you guys are just, you know, you're making it from the same, like at the end of the day, like I totally get it if we're talking about the difference between an $80 watch and a $500 watch. Okay, cost certified in-house movement. Okay, yeah, there's a big difference between a watch that's getting pressed, you know, the movement's getting stamped out, versus something that is machined and touched by a watchmaker. Absolutely. But yeah, I tend to agree with you. Like once you get into the $7,000, it's really hard to sort of justify that.
You're right there. I've never used that term for myself, but I think I am a value watch buyer, where I love the aesthetics of the watches. So I know there's collectors that really are enthralled, you know, especially engineers that are just enthralled by the complexity of the movements and all the different materials. I suppose it's similar, you know, in your other hobby with cars. Like, I aesthetically like cars. I don't really, and I like the way they drive, but I'm not, I wouldn't care that much about knowing the details about the engine, really. I mean, I love my Mini because of the way it looks, not because I'm enthralled with how the engine works, really. Yeah. I don't know if that's a bad analogy, but I'm the same with the watch movements. As long as it works, keeps good time, to me, the aesthetics of the movement itself, because I will never find as good looking movement than was in my plated Speedmaster. I don't, for me anyway, but So aesthetically, I mean, and I did like the Tudor aesthetically, but the other thing as well is, with everything that's going on at the moment, it was the same with the Speedmaster. I was like,
is this just hanging out? Could this be cash that I could invest?
Could I liquidate this for around about what I paid for it?
Yeah.
Which I sold it for around about what I paid for it, but obviously you pay the fee of E024. So
yeah, I was looking at my watch box the other day and just sort of thinking that sort of thing. I feel like where I'm at, I found some scrappy finds that I got for great prices on eBay, which we will hold off till another podcast. Definitely going to talk about this one. While I think I could get maybe a little more, I could definitely get more than what I paid for them, because I did bracelets and I had them checked out, and I replaced the crown on one of them and did some work, and et cetera, et cetera. I feel like I don't think I could. It doesn't feel like I have like tons of money tied up in it, and so. Whereas if I had something like, if I had two Bell & Ross, like if I had a Bell & Ross chronograph, like a 2020 or 2019 Bell & Ross chronograph that I paid retail for $3,800, then you're like, okay, so that's let's get some money wound up in that, and I have two other chronographs, so maybe do I need all these chronographs? So yeah, I get it.
The other thing as well with the Tudor was, and this is, I've had a real think about what I want to do as a watch collector. The other thing with the Tudor is, and I joked about it with the Omega when I got it back and it was highly polished, is that Tudor Black Bay 58 is gorgeous, and but you only have to look at the side of it and you scratch it. I think when I was truthful with myself, I'm like, because when I walk, I like flail my arms around. I'm not like super careful with stuff, and I know that about myself. I think as you get older, as I'm coming up to like my midlife crisis of 40, I think I'm having to just realize stuff about myself. I am clumsy with stuff, even though I don't want to be. I am clumsy with stuff. So, do I want to batter the Black Bay 58 when it looks so beautiful? But it is. I worried about scratching the side of it. I worried about damaging the aluminium insert in the bezel. So then I thought, right, what watch has got the history that I like, the romance of days gone past, has the history, has the pedigree. I can also bash it around and not be too worried about it, and also it's around that sweet spot, that $1,000 mark. So what I did was I went for, there's a beautiful Squale watch. It's called the Famoso or something. There's also a different way of talking about it as well. Long Island Watches has a different, it's called something different, but it's got a beautiful blue dial, like a sunburst dial.
Oh, yeah. I had this is interesting. So this was a watch obsession for me before I did this podcast. I know all about this guy.
So this is the other thing that I was, sort of coming to a realization about what type of watch collector I am. I love this titanium Citizen, and I don't really care that it's a Citizen. When I was watch collecting maybe a year or so ago, I was like, oh yeah, Citizen's cool, but then I've come at a real appreciation for Citizen watches. I think I've got a real appreciation now for Squale. I did own a Squale before, and what I did is I went for the Tropic version, which sort of looks a bit like a Submariner. And I know I did that because TGV was, at the time I was watching a lot of him, and he was going on about Squale as if it was like, or Squale, as if it was the greatest watch that had ever been made.
Right,
and that was putting me off. And I don't know, I mean, I hardly ever watch any other YouTubers now, because we're obviously doing this podcast, and I'm doing my own channel, which is, plus we're working from home, so you're living in a box almost. I was like, look, I forget that TGV goes on about it as if it's like the greatest thing since sliced bread, because that was kind of putting me off about it, because I was keeping thinking, God, it can't be that good, can it? But I have owned a Squale before, so I knew they were good.
Yeah.
So this one, I was just like, right, I'm going to go with this one.
Awesome.
I can bash it around. It's got all the history.
Yep. Nice.
So the Tudor went out today. Hopefully we'll get to its new home.
You already order this? Is this already on its way?
It's on its way from Nomon Watches, which they are great. The last time I dealt with them. And I'll just say this one thing. If you have $3,500 to spend on a watch, that Tudor is like bang on the money. It will, I'm convinced it will go up in value. But then I was sort of playing around with this as well, that money would also go up in value if I put it into investment account.
Sam, I actually just watched one of your older YouTube videos where you talked about watches and investments. The most you can kind of hope for is you kind of get tired of it and maybe in 2-3 years you get what you paid for it. That's great. But what you paid for it was in 2020 money and not 2025 money.
Yeah, that was the one that was the sobering one, wasn't it? Where I talked about Rolex prices in 2010. And if you'd taken that amount of money and put it into Bitcoin at the time, yeah, you would have been a multi-millionaire.
Yeah, stunned me. Just Amazon. Amazon stock. Exactly. So the 50 Atmos, the Famoso, or the other name for it, the blue dial on this is killer. It's like blue in the center and goes black to the outside. I almost bought this probably a year ago.
And the other thing as well, which is nice about this watch, is it's only got a 20 mil lug width. And again, this is one of the things I'm realizing about myself, that I just like 20 mil lug width.
Yeah.
It's smaller than an actual Squale, and also it's got that beautiful kind of blue sunburst style. So when we get it, we'll get it. And I'll make a video on the Tudor for everyone. There was a couple of things that really annoyed me. Not annoyed me. There's a couple of little niggly things. It didn't have the date, and honestly, I know people say, well, why did you buy it then if you like a watch with a date? And so that was one thing. But the other thing is, which truly annoyed me, and again, guys, call me out on the Facebook group on this all day, is the metal band on it. I mean, that metal bracelet was absolutely taking the piss, that thing. It was, I couldn't get it on the metal bracelet to start with. It was only on that ridiculous $20 NATO strap that they put on it. I know they say they make it on like a tapestry machine, but it's no better than a crown and buckle. Yeah. It's no better. Yeah. And then you go for the and they wouldn't tell me at the time how much the bracelet was. They're like, oh, we've got to ask him. We'll have to get the stock number from, I think. And then when they emailed me and said, because it does look, it looks the best on a metal bracelet. I mean, it also looks awesome on a brown leather strap, but it looks awesome on its own bracelet. They wanted $800 for that bracelet. I was absolutely staggered that Tudor would do that. And it wasn't just that jeweler. I asked around a few others, and they're like, $800 for a metal bracelet. Now, fair enough, if you're buying a Rolex, that might seem like a bargain, but on a watch that was $3,500, what's that, like a quarter of the price or something? The watch is the bracelet. It's ridiculous. When in fact it was only a $200 uplift, I think, to get it on the bracelet. On the bracelet. Yeah, that feels like you ordered the Porsche and you forgot to put the colored mirrors package on, or whatever, the trim package, the carbon fiber trim package, and the carbon fiber trim package would have added $700, but now you need to buy it from the parts department and it's $2,700 is what it feels like. Yeah, it's a real stain on that watch, I think, or how I felt about it, because that NATO that it comes on, that should have been free with it. That should have been an alternative strap with it, not the only option that you can get the watch on. Yeah. So anyway, there was my little rant.
Wow, that's we have been on a trip with Sam. All right, a lot to take in there.
I know my week in watches, absolutely. And I think also this might have helped us out because it's been a pretty light watch week, except for the big news today was, we're recording this on Wednesday night, so Elon Musk nearly launched his SpaceX shuttle. And did you spot what watch he had on?
Sam, it looked like a Speedmaster, but it looked like an old mechanical Speedmaster. I just saw a widescreen shot. But apparently it was, what was it? It was an X33?
Yeah, and it wasn't the new Skywalker one that's been out for the last, 10 years? I don't know. But that Skywalker's been out. It was the old school original X33 LCD watch. That's what it looked like, or that's what Hodink is reporting as well.
Now, that sort of makes sense now that I'm thinking about it, because it was either Doug or Bob. I don't know who was the commander, but they took like they were on the last shuttle ride, so that's probably their NASA issued X-33 from, 20 years ago, whatever, or 15 years ago. I saw that and I thought, oh, is that the old mechanical? And then did Omega miss an opportunity to make a limited edition SpaceX watch? What is going on?
We were laughing about this before, weren't we? Where was their marketing department when they're like,
I know.
Some SpaceX, they might have it. Can we not make a limited edition Tesla or a 2001 Space Odyssey? Because that's where they must have got the idea for the spacesuits, which I thought was hilarious. Like Elon Musk, he puts so many Easter eggs in things. He's great.
Yeah, I found it interesting that they have the special spacesuits all decked out, and you could see the 1960s black Velcro NASA issued strap on the outside of this spacesuit from the future, and I'm like, come on guys, you guys are missing an opportunity here.
I don't know, I get the impression from one of the images that maybe they were like, no, don't wear a watch because it's like a clean line of the suit, and then the guy's like, no, I'm strapping this on, because he could have easily worn it on the inside, and the other guy wasn't wearing a watch, or at least on the outside.
No, yeah, it was just one of them. Yeah, just one of them. So I was like, yeah, it felt like it broke up the suit. I feel like maybe that was personal decision, but yeah, they missed opportunity there, because they could have made it out of Tesla, SpaceX, stirred aluminum or something. It's gonna be weighs 5 grams and costs $65,000 to make the case. Something. Omega could have come up with something here.
I've got another strap story, but what I think we should do is we'll just pause for a very quick break. Hi everyone, welcome back to Casual Watch Talk. So before the break, I was talking about another watch strap story, and I just want to say a big thanks to Robert on the Facebook group, who sent me an ISO frame strap over. I've always been intrigued by these ISO frame straps, but they're like $140 for a dive strap.
Yeah.
And I actually got it yesterday. They do feel quality. I'll do a full review. Have you ever seen one? A real ISO frame?
I think, I've seen them. I don't know if it was because there's so many knockoffs of them. I don't know if it was a legit one. I would expect there to be more QC quality, and you got it in that fun summer orange I love.
Pretty good, actually. And what I thought about doing, and I went down another rabbit hole with this as well, so I know we've gone past watch obsessions, but ISO frame, I think I don't know if they originally made them, but I think they bought the Tropic name, so they're the only ones that can truly make Tropic branded watch straps.
Right, yeah.
And I was looking at whether I should do a comparison between the two, but their Tropics, when you add it up, postage, etc., $90.
Yeah, I guess this is one of those things. Well, Sam, if you have a $3,800 watch,
yeah,
because it's just a matter of principle there. Again, this is I think if I knew it was going to be amazing, and it was just the watch just called for a Tropic strap, and then I knew I was going to be done, $90. Okay. All right, I'll do it. Because if I know it's quality, I'm going to get a great product. It's exactly what is going to work with my watch and look amazing, then yeah. But I would definitely feel sad if I had a $90 watch strap that just kind of sat in the box in my...
I think I'm going to have to take one for the team here, aren't I? I think I'm going to have to bite the bullet so that I can review it and we all can know whether it is worth $90. And considering Robert kindly sent me over that ISO frame, I suppose it's not too bad because I can compare the two together. And I've only really paid for the Tropic one. At
20 mil, right? 20 or 22?
They only do 20. They only do 20 mil one.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. No Seiko Tropic for you.
No. So for our main topic here, Chris has got a really interesting subject, and we've not spoke about this before, so it'll be there'll be some guessing games in here.
I have been watching Drive to Survive over on Netflix. It's the Formula One. It's not, I guess it's kind of like a documentary, but it's like a what kind of happened during the year. It's a really interesting way. I'm not a super F1 fan. I know of F1. I'm a motorsports guy. I'm a rally guy, so I sort of know of. But it's a interesting way to present it because it's all the back stuff. It's all the like, driver drama and team drama, behind the scenes stuff. It's a really fascinating way to show the sport. And they're on to their second season, and I'm about halfway through their second season. And it has been nothing but pause on the TV for watch spotting for this extended binge of Drive to Survive.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I know F1's, I'm sure it's much bigger in the UK than it is in the US, and maybe that's just by the nature. But I remember back, quite a few years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, there was an American team called Haas Racing, which I think is owned by Haas Oil, is it?
Mm-hmm. Still around. Yep.
They phoned me up and said, we want to start this. I was working for an IT reseller at the time, and they were interested. We sold some new emerging technologies servers that weren't mainstream yet. Everybody was buying Dell, and there was these new companies that were popping up making like hyper-converged servers and things like that. And one of their IT guys rang me and said, we're thinking of getting these hyper-converged servers because it allowed you to get, and you know this better than me, but it allows you to get much better server density in a rack. So they were like, well, can you price this up? And we're like, well, okay, which data center do you want it delivered to? And he's like, no, we're putting this on the back of a semi-trailer. We're putting this on a tractor-trailer, and this is our mobile command center for the F1 team. It was amazing.
I think they mentioned that Haas trailer. Like they have they do all the flow analysis stuff, all the part flow, like where they basically they can put something before they ever actually do any wind testing. They take that part in CAD and they put it in the computer and they test it in the wind, under stress, under load, in 1,000 different situations, and they need all of that data to add a single part to that car. So that's fascinating. So Sam, how many luxury watch brands do you think are involved in F1?
Such a difficult question, isn't it? Because a lot of them use F1 in their advertising, don't they? So if I'm thinking of adverts that I've seen, when you say F1, I immediately think of the Schumacher, the Speedmaster Reduced. Guessing there's got to be some tag in there because tag started off as making parts for F1 cars. The technology's the avant-garde.
Let's narrow it down and say sponsor F1 currently.
I've got a little bit of a cheat here because I know for sure that the Red Bull racing team use Casio Edifice watches because I'd been into one of the Red Bull offices here in California, and they have the nose cone of, I think, Lewis Hamilton's F1 car. So I knew that because you can even buy those Edifice watches that has Red Bull on. But truthfully, that's the only one that I know that sponsors it at the moment.
All right. So 8. There are 8 right now, and I think last year as well. Luxury watch brands that sponsor. Number 1, we'll get out of the way, which is Rolex. Rolex does it right. If you ask me whether I wanted to sponsor a team or not, I would answer that I want to sponsor the championship.
The whole thing.
Why sponsor a team when I can sponsor the whole thing? So good for them for getting that cash out. So there's no particular team with Rolex. It is F1 is the official timekeeper.
Right, that's cool that Rolex, they sponsor the entire championship. So not a particular team, or does their insignia appear on the cars? I wonder. I don't remember seeing one.
No. So just on the track, on the billboards, on the track, around the track, the bridges, etc. Now, Peculiar, a brand that is completely missing, very involved in the Olympics, Omega, nowhere to be found.
That's weird, isn't it? So I wonder that Schumacher, then they must have just individually sponsored Schumacher at the time then. Maybe. I
think so, yeah. I think that was a previous... So, not saying they hadn't... I mean, there's a lot of brands that have had relationships in the past with F1, I'm sure. But, I kind of found that interesting of all this list, and we'll go through it.
Does that make you feel differently about watch brands based on what they sponsor? Because Omega obviously do like the Olympics, and we've just been talking about the F1 with Rolex, but then Omega also do ones that are like James Bond versions, whereas Rolex don't do any particular special F1 edition. I mean, they don't do any special editions of any of their watches, but they don't do like an F1 watch. Whereas Omega would be all over that, wouldn't there? There'd be an entire series of...
Yeah, it'd be all sorts of fun colors, I'm sure. Yeah, I think it makes, it's kind of interesting, like the brand that is associated with the team or the car. So yeah, let's kind of get into that a little bit. So Mercedes, IWC, and I mentioned this earlier. I was looking at IWC's lineup, and boys, there's some priciness there. I mean, it's good stuff, but you have to really want you have to really want some of their stuff in order to spend that kind of money. I mean, you're in deep into the 5 to 7 to 7 to 10, you're not picking up a chronograph for $1,200. That's not happening.
And I don't remember them, and this is my ignorance probably on IWC, but we went to an event at that IWC store, didn't we? And I don't remember them having a special F1 edition of or a Mercedes edition of their IWC, do they? I mean, it makes sense because they're sort of Swiss-German, aren't they, IWC? And obviously Mercedes very famously German as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Some of these brands, and that's maybe telling, some of these brands they're just there and they're saying, hey, we're here, we're representing. I don't think that there's an actual IWC F1, any sort of special watch that they produced. Let me just take a quick check.
Not F1, but one of the brands that I think is bang on point is when Hamilton sponsor the air races, and then they have a whole range of watches, and the plane's got all the nice Hamilton insignia up the side, and they do quite a nice tie-in. And I know Red Bull sponsor that as well. But
Okay, so back to IWC. So IWC has a Formula One made from pressed carbon fiber that I just learned about. I don't think that they have to have these companies have all the like special edition stuff. Unlike the Casio Edifice that you mentioned, I think there's like 6 versions of, I looked and there's got to be like at least 4 or 5.
Oh, they lean all in that. I mean, I had an Edifice that had the track layouts built into the watch, which was a cool feature, but who would ever use that? I mean, I'm glad that I had the Nuremberg ring on as a
Yeah, that's cool.
It was loaded into the memory, but I don't know. Maybe take my little Mini on there one day.
Yeah. Set in 7 minutes on the Nuremberg. So next up, Ferrari. My Italian accent.
Oh, is that? I'm going to take a stab at this. Is that Hublot?
Hublot, yes it is.
Because they do that Ferrari watch, don't they? That's the engine.
Right. So now you have like, instead of like, my German accent won't be good, but instead of having Mercedes, we make carbon fiber, we make a carbon fiber watch that's special, like Hublot, Ferrari red, Ferrari watch. I mean, that thing is, they go all in for that.
It's an incredible feat of engineering, that engine watch, and it has the little winder is the gun for taking the wheels off the more replica
right
one that takes
that's
the
right
wheels off.
Yeah, the special wrench is pretty interesting. Yeah, definitely check YouTube for that, because that's a fun, just to see the engineering that went into that. Mercedes, IWC, okay, that kind of makes sense. Ferrari, Hublot, okay, super high end, right? Red Bull's main team is currently Tag Heuer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so now Tag is a brand where you can maybe get a chronograph for, $2,200, $2,500. I mean, I think it's much more approachable price point. I don't know. I saw the team director walking around with that Autavia with the 12-hour bezel. That vintage. Oh, it looks good. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh. And it's the I guess a reverse. It's the black with the white subdials. It's striking on a leather band.
Yeah,
it looks great.
Not that dissimilar than that Montreal that I reviewed on the channel. It takes a lot of inspiration from that Montreal, the Heuer Montreal. Mm-hmm. It's got Heuer nicely on the dial as well. They omitted Tag from that one, which I like.
Right. Yeah. Next up, we've got McLaren. And the first appearance of Richard Mille.
Interesting, because I think the original owners of McLaren, didn't they go on to I forget the name of the guy, but I don't know whether he actually was one of the founders of McLaren, was the guy who bought Hoyer.
Oh, that's weird. Huh. Interesting. Side note. Richard Mille, high horology, beyond even, I'd say, Hublot. It's definitely the new money watch. And you see these on like the 18-year-olds driving F1 cars, and you're like, what is that?
Or the NFL players that get fined.
Right. Yeah, definitely new money brand.
It's weird, isn't it? Because if you were a fan of McLaren, I mean, the Richard Mille is completely unattainable for most people, isn't it, as a watch? It's not like you could stretch to a tag. You certainly could buy a Casio Edifice. You could argue that Hublot maybe, but Richard Mille's just so, I mean, they're like $100,000 upwards, aren't they?
Right. Yeah, the barrier to entry there is like automatically you have to not worry about the average salary of someone in the United States on my wrist. So it's already into that, territory. All right. So fan favorite, number 5. And by the way, I'm doing them in order that they finished in 2019. So if anyone's keeping track of F1 at home. Number 5, Renault. It's French. Any guesses?
Not Yema.
No. French company, founded in Switzerland, built by Germans.
Kick myself, aren't I now?
Bell and Ross.
Oh, nice.
Now, Bell and Ross has a line of their X series. They did a number of limited edition chronograph, sort of based in the style of the Renault colors, the yellow, carbon fiber yellow. They made it look like the steering wheel, so it's got not too funky, but like all the unique colors around the dial, things like that. They've done, I think, 4 or 5 now, and I think only in 2019 they came out with what I would say is more of a reasonable. So they took their vintage case chronograph, not the square, and they did a nice, it's got a carbon fiber dial in it, and it's Renault, and it's well done. It looks like a racing watch. It's pretty well done. It's definitely less over the top than their X, where it's like a skeletonized carbon case with every technology possible. And, getting close to the Hublot and the Richard Mille. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah, that is a cool one.
So number 6 is Toro Rosso Honda, which is the Casio Edifice that you mentioned. Toro Rosso, Red Bull.
So they're not Red Bull racing anymore.
Well, so that's their second. Yeah, so they're the B team, the second team. So Scuderia.
Okay, so Honda
Toro
have it
Rosso
as well then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and they did a special edition. I think they did a thing with Honda as well. Yeah.
That's interesting and affordable if you like that team, which is cool.
Yeah. Right. Number 7, Racing Point BWT Mercedes. That hot pink, that bubblegum pink car that you see in F1. No watch sponsor will touch it. No one's
not even
Swatch. No, currently not sponsored. Right. So yeah, maybe if Swatch wants to get on that. That's Omega's in. We'll get the Swatch group in on the pink BWT Mercedes. Number 8, the Alfa Romeo team, also with Hublot. Seems like that's with Ferrari. So both of those Ferrari teams stuck with Hublot, whereas, like you said, Red Bull kind of switched it up with 2 different. And I feel like there's sort of options there where you're like the lesser team, or maybe like an F2 team where maybe we don't all have Richard Mille money.
Yes, and I can't think of. Could you think of an appropriate Italian watch brand that could sponsor like Alpha?
Panerai.
Oh, of course. And that would be a good one, wouldn't it, as well?
Right. That'd be pretty good. Although Dive Watch is not racing chronographs, so I don't know if they'd. But that, I guess, I mean, but that, but does that matter? Hublot, Richard Mille. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Plenty of three-hand watch manufacturers are in this list. So another interesting one, Haas, Ferrari, is running the Haas team, which had energy drink sponsor for half the season in 2020, or 2019, excuse me. But also going with Richard Mille. So more 19-year-olds walking around with $75,000 watches on there.
I don't know if you know this, but is Haas still the only completely American team that's in F1?
I believe so. And I just saw there was a good video on YouTube about the Haas NASCAR machine shop, and they apparently share the building with the Haas F1 team, but like their strategy as an owner, his strategy is to basically make a factory that just puts out winning cars. But it was interesting that the NASCAR side of the building and the F1 side of the building like do not share anything. Like you can't, like they don't, there's like, it is like Imperial and Metric. There is no, I'm sure they'll share the wind tunnel, but like as far as the machinery is concerned, like it seemed like they had almost a duplication of efforts from that team. So interesting team. Yeah. American team. I think North Carolina. And then finally a team that used to win a lot, but now doesn't. That would be Williams Mercedes with scoring no points. Oris. I feel bad for Oris here because I think I could do better.
I mean, they used to be a great team, didn't they? I mean, Oris as well is a complete...
Yeah, for sure.
Oris is a complete side thing of doing something awesome for COVID-19. They're actually auctioning off one of their Oris Aquis divers. They made a special edition for the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK, so they're auctioning that off on the 9th of June. So,
that's great
on that. But back
to
Oris. I mean, they again traditionally a pilot watch and dive watch brand, you would say. I'm sure I would have seen a Williams limited edition watch.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. F1, let's look. They've got, so they have the Oris Williams F1. It's not branded, and probably because F1 branding costs, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure there's money that has to put that logo on anything. It's going to cost money. But yeah, no logos on it or anything, but like a clean black chronograph, looks like ceramic tachometer, 2 subdials. It's a very sporty looking chronograph, but no, nothing too much to speak of.
What I'm surprised with is that we haven't seen Breitling in there, because they have the Bentley limited editions, don't they? I mean, I know Bentley isn't a racing team, but
right, yeah, more car, right, yeah, certainly some more car connections there. So yeah, I found that pretty interesting, and lots of sort of pausing the screen and seeing what's what. It surprised me. Casio surprised me. Tag surprised me. I'm now on the hunt for a used Tag Octavia. That'll put that on the list. As Watch Obsession 2021 continues.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Tag fan, but there's definitely something about that. They've done a phenomenal job of that.
So it's fun, like I said, staying in, staying safe, binge watching some stuff, checking out some watches. So hope everybody does the same.
Yeah, I absolutely found that fascinating. And let us know what you think over on the Casual Watch Talk Facebook group. Send us a invite request and we'll add you as a member. As always, we really appreciate you listening. And Kris and I will see you next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.